I've had several cats through the span of my life, and I think we had a gerbil that did not live very long. I don't know the exact number of cats. Does anyone count cats?
Over the span of my life, I've had a couple cats.
When I was growing up, we had 2
dog,
dogs.
We had some
3
rabbits.
cats.
I have possessed a few
Several
animals.
goldfish.
I won 1
12
goldfish at a fair,
birds,
maybe 4
and
or 5
fleas.
hamsters,
We always had
a couple
lots
of mice,
fleas,
birds,
because we always
caged
had cats.
fish.
Over the span of my
pigs,
life, I've probably
and
had
a dog.
20 or 30 pets. I grew up on a farm, so we had a lot of pets.
I currently possess 1 dog.
I
and
do possess
some roaches, I
2
guess.
cats and a fish.
See, I don't have any animals right now.
I've been the caretaker of a lot of cats. However, I have not possessed cats. I have never held them captive. I just had food there. They came in and they left. They came as they pleased and they left as they pleased.
I don't have any pets. I do have a leather purse. Does that count as a cow or a percentage of a cow? I don't know.
When I get my own home, I'd like to get 1 fat cat. I know it's not good for their heart, but every time I come home from work, this cute fat cat would greet me at the door.
Hello, sweeties, how are you?
I might get a cat from a shelter or something just because they're cute.
Well, I've always wanted a dog, and I think that would possibly be the most difficult decision in not possessing animals, because it's this whole idea that dogs and humans belong together and are friends, and I've always wanted to have a dog friend.
I think it's a good thing to have animals for them, for me, for the entire world.
I can perfectly imagining a life without using animals.
I think it would be very easy for me to
I could
give up animal
animals.
products.
I don't think I'd want to, but we could just eat vegetables.
A vegan, so using animals in any way is forbidden.
My boyfriend's dog gives us a lot of joy. It's nice to have animals. They make nice companions.
And I think that having animals as pets has benefited me and my kids, and also the pets.
You know, it's nice in some way to have a pet around, but I don't know. I don't think it's really worth it. I think animals should live on their own.
I don't think people should use animals. I think that they should be free, and I even feel guilty about the dog that I have because he sits at home alone half the time and is bored.
I do feel guilty about using
I don't
and
use or
possessing
possess
animals.
animals, so I guess I don't feel guilty about that.
I don't feel like I had an option to not eat meat because I grew into a meat-eating household, and when you're a little kid being influenced like that, you start eating it before you even think of what it is.
It's a question of education. I mean, if you have always eat meat, well, you just eat meat and don't ask questions.
Because it's so cultural, and you grow up with certain ideas about it. If you change your habits, it can be upsetting for your family and your friends. It separates you from other people. And for me, that's the biggest challenge, more than missing animal products per se, which is something I really didn't realize when I first decided that I wanted to stop using meat.
This guy at work, found out I was a vegan, and he said, "Oh, why are you a vegan?" I said, "Well, at first it was just because I thought animals feel, and that's reason enough. But then, it's better for the earth, better for people." I said, "Well, it's greener, And he said, "Well, actually, that's not true." I said, "Oh, really? Why is that?" And he said, "Well, because all the cows are making greenhouse gases with all their shit and all their burping and all that." I was like, "Yeah, exactly." And he said, "Yeah, exactly." Then I realized he thought that people need to eat animals to cut down on their greenhouse gas emissions. But I was like, no, people put those cows there, all these cows that wouldn't be there on Earth, just so we can eat them. And he was like, oh.
I believe in
I think there's
Gandhi's
some truth
quote
to what Gandhi said,
that the
greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by how its animals are treated.
I do agree with what Gandhi said. I think all life is valuable, and we should treat every living being ethically and morally.
And as far as Gandhi, I don't think it's the only thing you can judge the greatness of a nation. That's, I think, one of the things.
I use plastics and I possess plastics.
I use them quite a bit.
Sometimes I just have a constant inner monologue about the convenience
I come into
of
contact
plastic.
with plastics many, many times a day. With
It's hard to imagine my life without plastic materials.
In the bathroom,
I suppose we'd
things in the
have
kitchen.
no computers. What would we make computers out of? Wood?
I come in contact with plastics all day. They're in everything. My laptop, my
I've
pens,
possessed and
my
used
glasses,
plastics.
my refrigerator.
I have
Every time
possessed and
I
used
order
animals,
takeout
but
food.
how can you even list the probably thousands of pieces of plastic I've had? I come in contact with plastics all the time.
I own infinite plastic things. I mean, every tiny dial or strap on a bag.
My life would be quite different if I didn't use any plastics.
Even the
all the
salad that we buy, the
like
mixed
shampoo,
greens, come in a
conditioner,
plastic tin.
toothpaste, plastic
It's
containers.
not really a tin then
for
if it's
food.
made out of plastic, is it?
I think
a plastic
about this,
container. I'd
and
have
I
to
think
stop
about
driving
how
a
my life
car
would be
if
so
I gave up
different.
plastic. I don't think I really have a choice on the plastic issue. So I'm not prepared to go Amish and live off the fat of the land.
Yes, I've used plastic, and I always use plastic. Actually, I must say I love plastic. This material refers to forms that was impossible to build before. That's why I love this material.
I just like plastic, I don't know. I wouldn't imagine a life without
I
plastic.
guess imagining my life without plastic, I imagine it being really creative. You know, there are so many hurdles you need to get through the day, which you're being offered plastic. I just imagine that there are a lot of systems in place. It just depends on how crazy I want to get. I mean, how am I going to avoid using a credit card that's made out of plastic? See what I mean?
I think my life has benefited greatly by using plastics. It's probably difficult to buy anything without plastic. You really would have to become
Maybe there
Amish.
could be life without
For
plastic.
some reason, I have this huge feeling that I'm being unreasonable to completely alter my day to avoid using a styrofoam to-go container. It's just such an inner battle with plastics because they're everywhere and there's such a cultural understanding that it's too inconvenient to stop using plastics.
Plastic, intrinsically, I don't believe is bad. I think it depends on what the plastic is made out of. But I don't think there's anything wrong with plastics. I feel guilty about buying a lot of plastics because most of them are made out of toxic material.
You can make, food containers that are like plastic out of corn, but if you grow so much corn to make these containers, disposable containers, there goes biodiversity, right?
I just can't imagine what I would do without plastics. You would be obliged to quit all those objects that have been so familiar now, have been, so integrated and so normal, and so you would have to take them out or substitute them by other materials, and I can't imagine. It would be like very disturbing, more than for me, for the whole system.
I think we could be living exactly the same way that we are living now without plastic. It's just a question of finding material that can be used the same way.
Without using plastics, I think you pretty much have to become a complete recluse. I think instead of getting rid of plastics, we just need to change what they're made out of and use materials that are better for the environment and that are non-toxic and that can biodegrade.
I feel guilty about using plastics. It would be nice without plastic. All the plastic is going into the ocean, and the ocean is grinding it up into all these particles. There's molecules of plastic that will probably never leave our bodies. It's down at the molecular level, and I think that's what people don't realize, how it's just like part of our fabric of existence in this really kind of scary molecular level.
Without plastics, life would be more difficult. The technology we have relies on plastic, so we would miss out on a lot of advancements in science and medicine.
Without plastic, you can't have computers. Without plastic, you can't have refrigerators and cars and all that stuff. So it's completely changed technology.
Also, sometimes I feel a bit guilty about it. For me, the benefits to suppress plastic is much more obvious than the benefits to suppress the use of possession of animals, but the suppression itself is really far more challenging. So currently I am in this contradiction.
I do feel guilty about possessing plastic because I think it's harmful for the environment.
I think I'd have to give up using animals forever if I had to choose. It's hard to imagine giving up plastic. I'd have to become Amish, I imagine. We do have Amish people near us, so I think about what their lives must be like. They do it without plastic,
Well,
don't they?
I've already gave up using animals forever. It would be so hard to really not use any plastic. I could not really exist in American society.
I would definitely choose giving up animals forever before giving up plastics, because there's so many alternatives to animals.
How a nation uses plastic and how much plastic a nation uses, I think, says a lot about it.
Yeah, and the same could be said for plastics, for sure, as far as a nation.
I don't think that we're going to chart our moral progress by the use of plastics, although we are probably damaging the environment severely by manufacturing plastics, by using
I think
plastics.
convenience plays a huge role. People get lazy. They don't want to do dishes. They'd rather buy plastic forks and knives and throw them in the garbage. But that's just a small part of the plastics we use. More importantly, it's people trying to save money.
You know, everything has to be so sterile. Everything's all wrapped up in plastic, and it really doesn't have to be. You can take home a loaf of bread and just carry it around like they do in France. You know, the crust itself is like a bag. It's a protective shell.